Hi guys, I'm Charles and I take photos, and today I'm going to be talking about how I got into photography. So my initial interest in photography kind of kicked up around about 2009, late 2008. In late 2008 I was kind of, still in school, still doing my GCSEs, mainly in art and IT. Wasn't paying too much attention to anything else because I just wanted to be a creative person, which, well, I ended up being. But kind of late 2008, I was, doing my GCSEs. The only camera I'd really used was my parents' DSLR and a couple of basic point and shoots, just to kind of, I used to take photos of landscapes and then print them off and then draw them out in like a kind of grid system. That worked for a while. I got B in art for doing stuff like that. So 2009, I kind of, I went to a trial course, a trial day, I should say, at the local St Helens College in photography. I went down there for a day and kind of just discovered the darkroom, got taught about photograms, got taught about film, and got shown all the facilities, and I kind of really liked what was going on. So I got my grades, wasn't too happy with many of them, apart from the B in art and C in IT. Those are my only two main ones that I'm kind of still happy with today. I mean, fair enough, I would have liked them to be A's, but who wouldn't have liked to got straight A's in school? So I then kind of, after I got those grades, I went and enrolled onto the photography course I was talking about. Started there in September 2009 and kind of absolutely fell in love with photography on that course. I started falling in love the second I got introduced to stuff like pinhole photography and, film. It kind of really hit home with me, and I got addicted when I got introduced to my first film camera, which is this. Yes, I still have it. This, to me, is just Genesis, really. It's a Praktica BX20 film camera. Quite easy to pick up now, really simple to use. You got two dials at the top, so you got your shutter speed and your ISO compensation, or ASA, however you want to say it with film. It's just still got film in it. I still do shoot a little bit of film, process it using a technique called Caffeinol, which I'll do a whole video on some other time. It's just got some Ilford film in it as well. But as you can see, it's a fully manual lens, so I learned with, the beauty of manual focus, with all of that. I absolutely love this camera. It's an absolute beast. It runs off old, can't remember what the name of the battery is, CRC2 batteries or something like that. That's mainly for the light meter. I think a lot of other people had more manual cameras than me. Not many other people got cameras with light meters in, so I was kind of lucky in that aspect of this camera, but I've always loved this camera. So kind of after Christmas in 2009, being with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my fiance, been with her for a while, and she kind of always liked my photography and liked what I was doing, so I kind of kept going. And I got given my parents' DSLR, which is, and a lot of people will scream at this, which is the Nikon D40. I mean, this was a huge camera back in its day. Love everything that Nikon has put out. Always grew up with their systems. We were kind of encouraged to go with Canon in our college, just purely because it's what the tutors used. They were familiar with it, but a few of us went against the grain with Nikon. The last time I used this was when I took it to Turkey, and it still managed to stand up. Image quality, well, you can't even go over ISO 400 on this, so Lord knows how I used to, do all the things that I used to do back in the day, like wildlife, gigs, portraits. Lord knows how I used to be able to do it with this camera. I really have no idea. My real influence kind of came in second year in photography. So, past my first year of college, went on to the second year, and that's when I started doing stuff like large format photography and medium format. I used to shoot primarily on medium format right the way up until the end of university. Like if I was ever doing portraiture or any reportage stuff, it would always be on medium format, but I'll get into that in a minute. So in second year I started doing things like photographing gigs, doing promotional shoots for bands, the usual stuff you kind of do, just to kind of build up a portfolio and kind of decide what I wanted to do. I mean, I'd always been big on landscapes and wildlife. you know, because it's kind of, you know, get outdoors, get shooting, just get on with it, and do what you love. But I always wanted to kind of, you know, work with bands, you know, because I loved going to concerts, and I loved the images that I'd used to see in magazines like Rock Sound and Kerrang. And I kind of just was balancing between all different types of photography, but that's still going on today. So after college, I enrolled onto the university course. Somehow managed to get a last minute place in the university course because I was initially just going to go straight to work after college. I figured, you know, I've got my college degree, I can just kind of go. But that's wrong. That was wrong. You know, the only place that could have got me is university. So I enrolled onto the university course with Liverpool John Moores, which is sadly not going anymore, but it was run in St Helens College, so it was convenient for me, you know, living right next to St Helens, and it being a 45-minute walk away, or, you know, a 10-minute bus journey, 5-minute train journey. It was easy to get to. And in first year of university as well, I did also get my first proper DSLR, which is this Nikon D90. This was a massive camera back in its day, almost as big as the D7000, if not bigger. Everyone had one of these. If they were a Nikon shooter, everyone had one. This one's unfortunately broken. I did have to sadly retire this, partly because the contacts between the lens and the camera have completely just blew up, short-circuited one day in the middle of a studio shoot. It was fantastic, actually. So now this can only be used with old manual lenses. It'll still autofocus just fine. It's just, it'll always shoot at the maximum aperture if it's with a digital lens. So stuff like the Sigma that's on there now, and even the 18-55 kit lens, it will always shoot at the maximum aperture. So that means, you know, if I was shooting at 2.8, if I was shooting a lens that was 2.8, but I dialed in f8, it would still shoot at 2.8. So it would, you know, kind of throw things off. Good for low light, good for gigs, but for any other kind of situations where I need to get a lot more depth of field, this kind of just had to get retired. As you can see on the back as well, it's also held together by gaffer tape because the rubber grip melted off at gig. I love this camera. I mean, it's been beaten, bruised, dropped, kicked, had beer spilt on it. You know, it's been through the paces, but you know, it's sadly retired now. I mean, I could still use it perfectly fine if I wanted to. I mean, this is an old Helios, Zenit Helios 56mm f2, which is giving you like a 85mm equivalent, so it's a fantastic portrait lens. I do often use this lens just because kind of the look it gives me in photos, but I actually got that off an old Zenit camera that's on the shelf behind me as well. But enough about cameras, back to how I got started. So in uni, I kind of shot primarily like landscape stuff, and you know, dabbled in a few bits of portrait, and still kept photographing gigs on the side. But in the end, I kind of just stepped back from going to gigs for a while and kind of focused on doing the uni work. You know, all the really, it wasn't necessarily boring stuff, but it was kind of, you know, the run-of-the-mill stuff that they teach on that course. So after Christmas and first year of university, I started doing a lot more. I started working a lot more with a band called Hair Last Goodbye, who are no longer going. So I kind of had to, you know, I used to go to their gigs like every single week. They used to have a gig on like pretty much every weekend, sometimes 2 days a week. I just used to go up and down and northwest and going with them and touring with them. It was a fantastic experience, and I really do miss those guys. I still speak to a couple of them, but you know, I just really miss having that many gigs weekly. I mean, I do shoot as much as I can now, but I'm getting off topic here. So after first year of university, carried on with the second year, started getting more into doing like children's portraits, family portraits, you know, all commercial stuff like that, and then just carried on doing that for a while. Got to third year of university, everything kind of changed. Got back into doing landscapes again, started to do more like theoretical stuff, which I do really, really miss, doing all the theoretical stuff, but it's hard to get to a point in your career where you're just doing theoretical stuff nowadays, especially with digital photography, because anyone can do that. You know, back in the day, you'd have photographers like, you know, Tom Wood, Martin Parr, I'm trying to think of a few others here, stuff like Ansel Adams, Edward Weston, you know, all kind of documentary style images, I want to say. So I kind of wanted to go into that, but at the same time I did need to kind of have that commercial background, so that's why I kept on doing stuff like commercial portraiture, photographing like children's portraits and stuff like that. Carried on doing that through third year. Got to the end of third year and I just absolutely obliterated my course. You know, got it done, put my head down, got it done. Done my last project. It's all about the impacts of tourism on the landscape, and I'm quite proud of that project, but not as proud as it's not how I wanted it to turn out, but I did. And fun fact about that project as well, that was actually shot on a Canon DSLR. That was shot on the original 5D, which someone in my course lent me, which I'm ever thankful for, because despite my obsession with the Nikon, that original 5D is actually a fantastic camera. I do like a couple of cameras from Canon, I'm just going to get that straight. I'm not biased towards products, but I kind of do sway more the Nikon way, partly because it's the cameras I learnt. I know the menu systems inside and out, of both systems really, but I just like what works for me, and you know, Nikon seems to be what works for me. So I finished university, and then I immediately kind of started my own business, you know. I didn't kind of go for the, I'll find a job route, I'll go work temp in a pub somewhere. I kind of just started my own business, kept pushing, you know, took on a few weddings, children's portrait shoots, commercial stuff, kept doing stuff with bands, and then I also then moved into video as well, surprisingly enough. Now, video is incredibly important to me. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now without learning video, and I didn't learn video in university. I had to teach that myself, mainly through YouTube and through services like lynda.com, and you know, just kind of knowing a lot about photography, about exposure, about composition, kind of helped a lot with video. So lo and behold, I now get more video jobs than I do photo jobs. So there's that as well. I mean, obviously I'm still a photographer, I still love the still image, but video is kind of where I see myself progressing a lot more. As I think everyone in the industry does, you know, once you start with video, you don't really stop, it's more of a niche. I mean, because everyone's a photographer nowadays, basically. And now I'm here talking to a camera and waiting to get the footage from this and hope that it looks good and hope that I look good, even though I never look good, and then get editing. So that's how I got started and the kind of brief history of me. So I hope you like what I've done. This is kind of personal to me because it's kind of something for me to look back on, and you know, I'll try and update this as, you know, in a couple of years, just to kind of see how things have progressed. So I hope you've enjoyed listening to me ramble on about where I came from and, you know, how I got started. But, you know, everyone starts from somewhere. So with that, guys, I'm Charles and I take photos. I'll see you in the next one.